Uh-oh.
I've decided he's going to run for Congress again.
Where's the house? I don't know.
I just turned it on and I was like, I literally have no idea what I'm going to talk about. Please help me. Because for a year and a half, I was running for Congress, so I knew exactly what I was going to talk about. Every time I stood up and I started talking, and now I have no idea. I have no idea. So honestly, I do want to start by talking first and foremost about who I am, because I know in Highlands County a lot of you aren't as familiar with me, and then I want to recognize a couple people in this room for doing some truly amazing things. But my name is Andrew Learned. I ran for Congress in the 15th district. That's the I-4 corridor. So it's not Tampa, it's not Orlando, it's basically everything in between. And I got into this fight. A lot of folks think you just get in and you're going to run for public office and you start there. But I was in high school on 9/11, and I was just one of those kids that was sitting in class. I was 18 in like a day, and I saw the towers come down. I was like, yeah, I'm never going to watch this on CNN ever again. I want to go get in the fight, and that's exactly what I did. I went to the recruiting station, and they were like, you can't go. You're still a junior. You need to come back next year. And I did. So I went. I served 4 years. I was a surface warfare officer. I did counter-piracy work. So I'm one of those guys who used to carry an M4 rifle and a 9mm combating Somali pirates for 4 years. And it shouldn't be hard to say that I needed an assault rifle for that job. I don't need one in my current job. And we sure as hell don't need them in our kids' schools. And somehow that makes me a Democrat to say that. So here I am. I go through that experience and I came out, and it really was like a life-forming thing. My parents are Republicans. I grew up in the evangelical church. I'm one of those people who speaks Republican. And a lot of times, I always get the jokes. Like I was in a Lyft coming home from the airport last night, and my Lyft driver just starts going into this thing about, man, those liberal Dems in Congress, if I ever get a word with one of them, I'm going to tell them a piece of my mind about this border wall and those illegals coming over and it's like, sir, I need to tell you who I am. I feel like we haven't been introduced. And I talked to him, and lo and behold, you somehow come to a realization of when we can talk to regular folks on the other side of the aisle, folks on our side of the aisle, when we can talk like humans about our shared values, we win. Because we're on the right side of these arguments. We're on the right side. And I think there's a lot of people who know that, and they're putting in the work, and they're fighting hard. So a couple people I got to give a shout out to. So my DEC chair is Kathy Sutherland, sitting over here. Yes, she's the DEC chair, so we applaud her because she's the chair now. I don't want to talk about that. I really don't. Kathy got involved because she organized her neighborhood. That's why she's here. She runs a whole county now, but it started with her community. She started going door to door in Lake Ashton and finding her neighbors. And would you know that her neighborhood is now like the biggest Democratic club in all of Polk County? It doesn't have to start big. It can be your block. It can be your street. Start small and build it up, because one day I'm going to grow up and be like, Kathy Sutherland. Neil, your DEC chair. I met Neil at a Pam Keith event at the DEC Blue Gala, Leadership Blue, one of these blue something galas that we all go to, right? Oh, that's what this one is. No, so we're down there, and I'm running for Congress in District 15. Pam Keith is running in District 18, but Pam Keith is actually cool, right? So she got to afford like a suite. And we got to go up there and have food and drinks. And it was like this really fun. Yeah, you were there. Yeah, it was this great time. And we got to meet her. She's a rock star. She was your speaker here last year. And I had just gotten out of the Navy. I got into this fight. If you hadn't heard my story, I was deployed. I was the crisis planner for Yemen for the Navy. So I worked for 5th Marine Expeditionary Brigade. We had guys in Syria, Yemen, Iraq, like you name it. And we had this new president come into office and without taking the briefing that we gave him, actually, and then taking a classified brief in an open ballroom, sent a mission into Yemen that got one of our guys killed. And I was just pissed. So I came home and I ran for Congress, and I didn't know anybody. I certainly wasn't Pam Keith. I can't talk like him. I never will. But I came home and I'm like, hey, Neil, I'm thinking about running for Congress. What should I do? He's like, you should get on Twitter. And you should tweet a lot. Neil, was that the advice you gave me?
Yep.
That was like the only advice he gave. So here I am, the millennial, who's supposed to be good at that kind of stuff, right? Has no idea what I'm doing. Neil is the guy who told me how to get my voice out there and how to stand up and how to be a congressman, how to go have this fight. He used his voice. He used his conversation with one guy to influence, and now we're up to what, like 12,000 people on Twitter. So they're sitting there helping us. When I started my race, the folks, if you ever run, by the way, if you ever run for office, the first thing they tell you to do is take your cell phone. You know how this goes, right? You take your cell phone and you put that in an Excel spreadsheet, and you call every single person on that list and you ask them for money, right? So I still have that spreadsheet. I started with 283 names. You know, when my campaign ended, we printed off our spreadsheet, and in part thanks to Neil and some of the advice that he gave me, we are up to 47,000 people on that spreadsheet that helped us get that voice out there. But that's because of you, and it's because you used your platform in that moment. And lastly, Anna, you know, she's going to come up here, she's going to steal the show, she's going to make me look like an idiot, she's going to talk. But before she was cool, before she was the Time Magazine's Person of the Year last year.
That's extra.
I was, we had an event at a little bar in Seminole Heights or something we went to together. And at the time she was working for Planned Parenthood, and I'm as straight and white and as ignorant as most things female as you would imagine. And I was like, I need to learn how to talk about the issue of abortion, because I'm going to get hit on this all day, every day. And she made sure that I knew the intricacies of how to have that conversation in a way that makes sense. So that you can stand up and talk to people without insulting them. And you can stand up and have a conversation about real issues that get to the fact that not the divisive things that the Republicans try to use to drive wedges between us, but all the things that bring us together. And I think, and Anna in that moment is the reason why we all fell in love with you, because I think we've all had that conversation with her at some point, where she pulls you aside and we all become stronger and better because of the individual conversations we have. I have no idea what I'm going to do in my future, but I do think, you know, campaigns are about the people you meet along the way. It's those little conversations you have. It's not standing up here and having this microphone and giving a speech. It's the little things. So like at lunch today, Polk County, I don't even know if you know this yet, Polk County, we just had our first meeting of Moms Demand Action in Polk County. And this is, you know, a group of folks that are committed to one thing. That's just like common sense gun safety. Not changing the world, not taking anybody's guns away, just real life issues, common sense. This lady comes, and she says, this is the first time I've ever been in public, and it's the first time I've ever talked about it. Her name is Lori, and she came to the meeting with a photograph of her son, who was 16. He had his 16th birthday 3 days before he shot and killed himself. Not a suicide, and just an accidental discharge. Because he was playing with the gun in the house. He thought it was unloaded, and it wasn't. Right? And when I used to do boarding mission, you know, people forget that we drill gun safety in the military all day, every day. I was a guy who was trained how to go into a place and take a building back. And, you know, this isn't the kind of thing that we want our teachers doing with our students. Right? We want to just give that credit. This is something that takes a special type of training to do. And Lori's there. She was just crying, trying to get her story out. There was a guy, Matthew, I've carried his little card in my pocket ever since the fundraiser that we had in Lakeland last year. Mom came up. Before she ever said a word to me, she was just bawling her eyes out. And she wanted to hand it to me because she carried it everywhere she went for years until she handed it over to me. His name was Matthew. Matthew was a combat infantryman. He actually drove trucks in the Army. And for those of you who remember the hottest days of Iraq, the most dangerous job you could have, the guys who saw the most combat were the truck drivers. Because they were the ones who would get hit by the IED. It wasn't the infantry who pushed through, it was the truck driver who went a couple hours afterwards and they would blow him up. Well, he got hit, he survived, came home with a back issue because he'd been blown through the roof of his Humvee. And the poor guy had pain so bad that the VA discharged him and didn't give him the proper care. So they overprescribed the opioids. And one thing led to another, and Matthew eventually overdosed on heroin. Which is a story that we all know somebody. Every single one of us, I'm sure, knows somebody. These rural counties, this is where it hits home the most. And that was one of the people that I met who's been propelling me the whole way. And my dad, I never talked about him when I ran before, but my dad is kind of the definition of your typical Trump voter, right? This is a guy who hasn't worked since '08 because the economy laid him off. He's a landscape architect, built big subdivisions, and in a story that I think all of us in Florida know well, indeed, this is like the state of the booms and the busts, right? My whole life, my dad he had a great job, and then we'd be unemployed for a couple of years. One time I cut my hand, and my family didn't have health insurance. And my mom was like, well, you can't go to the ER because we can't afford that. So can you wait till the free health clinic opens in the morning? And I was like, sure. And I was young and stupid and in college once, so I duct taped it, which is bad first aid advice, by the way. Don't do that. I ended up having to get it cauterized because of that stupid thing I did. But this is the thing. If we could just make sure that everybody in the richest country in the world had access to affordable health care, we'd be in a better place. We'd be in a better place. And my dad is one of those angry guys who turned to Trump because he was just pissed that he wasn't working. And I'm a business owner. I own a tutoring center. I have about 12 employees who come after school and they help kids do better in school. For me to employ someone like my dad costs me like $1,500 more a month because I have to pay for his health insurance. Right?
Yes.
If I hire someone, you know what? I'm going to piss everybody in this room off right now. So I'm sorry. I'll hand over the mic like as soon as I'm done with it. My health insurance is less than $100 a month.
Wow.
Because I'm young and invincible, right? We all.
Wow.
You know why guys like me get hired before guys like my dad did? It's because of that. It's because it's not simple, it's basic math, right? And so my dad gets pissed that he's getting passed up time and time again, and he turns to the first guy with a megaphone on Fox News who tells him that it's somebody else's problem. No, this is something that we can solve. We can bring this together. I could probably pay a little bit more, my dad should pay a heck of a lot less, and together our country will be stronger.
Yes.
And that's the kind of unifying argument we need to make. We need to get out there, we need to fight for these folks. Because this is not, I really appreciated what you said, man, because this is not about, us and our different silos. We need to get back to the Big Tent party. We need to talk about things that unite us, not divide us. We're not the party of the LGBT caucus and the African American caucus and the women's caucus and the veterans caucus. You know how many caucuses we have? We need to be one caucus, and so we are all working people. We are all just. So now that I've angered everybody in the room, but in all seriousness, guys, I really do appreciate it. Running for Congress the first time was the most humbling thing I have ever done in my entire life. I have met so many great and wonderful people along the way, and I think it's made me a better person. I think I met some of the greatest people in the world. Eileen in the back came to me at this event last year, and just like, I was done talking, she's like, handed me a check. She's like, go get them, go win this thing. Right? Because people come out of the woodwork for you in a way that you'll never, ever, ever understand. So for all of you who helped me last time, or for whatever we do in the future, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.